This episode, we travel to Walter Farms in Dekalb, Illinois. On the surface, it looks and operates much like other corn and soybean farms that use digital tools to maximize efficiency. But what sets this farm apart is how they're using the latest agriculture technology to turn a portion of their corn into award-winning craft spirits. We sat down with farmer and co-founder of this venture, Jamie Walter, to talk about adding distiller to his list of already impressive credentials, and how incorporating technology plays a role in his unconventional operation. Talk about when you were a young man growing up on this place, Jamie. How is it different today than it was then?
Sure. So in some ways, it's not all that different. The actual size of the farm is fairly consistent. So we've been around that 2,000 acre, maybe even just a little bit more. Of course, there were more mouths to feed back then. I mean, I had two uncles, a grandfather, and my dad, so there were four families being supported by the farm. They farmed in this Dekalb County area, the same general crops. Today, we're on about the same acreage. It's just fewer families, larger equipment. We've replaced a lot of labor with technology, but ultimately, it hasn't changed all that much, save for the addition of some of the value-added businesses we brought on.
So tell me about that moment when you said, maybe we could do this with some of the crop that we produce. Maybe we could go off in this branch. Where were you?
Yeah, I was in my office at home.
Where were you?
And it's a little bit of a long story. I'll abbreviate it a bit, but I had an interest, as had my father, in doing something value-added with our grain here for some time. He always thought it was a lost opportunity. Here we are 60 miles from the third largest metro center in the United States. And in the 47 years that he'd farmed here, we'd never shipped a load of grain east. Everything had always gone west and south, mainly to feedlots, river terminals, and the local fuel ethanol facility.
Some could have gone for export, I suppose.
Absolutely, a lot of it did. And he felt like there was a missed opportunity to take advantage of making that connection to the consumer. As we saw consumers begin to have more of an interest in how their food and their fiber and their beverages were being produced at the farm, we thought there was an opportunity there. So we were actually looking at first bakery goods, popcorn, vegetables. We looked at a number of different things to think, how can we make that connection? And I literally was sitting in the office one evening brainstorming and looking through numbers and spreadsheets, and I'm sipping on a bourbon. And I know that sounds like a story that's hardly believable. And I looked down at it, I thought, this is made out of corn. We are the Napa Valley of corn, right here in DeKalb County. This is what we ought to do. And so that began the process of getting all the permitting, the equipment, and that was a 2 to 3 year journey in and of itself to get started. But we started putting the business plan together that night.
As you are a purveyor of beverages here, you also share the story of agriculture, do you not?
Yes, it's one of the things that we take very seriously. So the distillery operations are really owned by myself, my father, and a third partner, Nick Nagley. All three of us, it was very important to be able to tell the story of agriculture and engage our consumers. It's good for our brand, but frankly, we feel a certain personal responsibility and an affinity to the agriculture industry. We want to tell that story, and not many farmers get the opportunity to engage with several hundred new customers every week and be able to talk to them and tell them the story of ag. We literally start every tour, and we give over 15 tours a weekend here. We start every tour by walking them out to the field and talking about ag, what we do as farmers first, and then we tell them about the distillation process.
In your business here, you've shown that you're not always just going along with the tide. You're willing to tackle things that other people haven't. Are you that way with technology? Are you an early adopter, or do you want to see it proven before you put your toe in the water?
I would say we're an early adopter, but maybe we've backed away from the bleeding edge just a little bit.
Let's shift gears to Climate Field View. What does it do for your business?
One of the things that attracted us to Climate Field View was that there is a large company behind it. Monsanto has a lot of investment and a lot of opportunities to have staying power. And so we thought that this was likely to be a technology platform that was going to be here in the long run. And so from an early start, we were willing to take that ride with them and help those tools become developed. One of the earliest things that was helpful to us was just as a place to aggregate data. You know, we have at the farm level been able to create so much data, but it's very difficult to manipulate it or to house it. And this was one of the first systems that really helped you do a really good job of getting it all compiled into one place and then be able to drill down through it and analyze it.
With Climate Field View, have there been some things you found out about your fields that really surprised you? I mean, I suspect you're a guy that knows these fields around here pretty well. Were there some things that you said, oh, my goodness?
Yeah, I mean, drainage was one of the first areas that we really put some money into improving. That was a big deal to us. Variety-wise, we do a lot of split planter stuff with our planter. We'll plant variety A on one side, variety B on the other. And that helps us keep track of it very nicely digitally and then analyze that data so that we can compare apples to apples. And then we push a lot of this data up to the cloud, and we do contract with other companies that have other services that allow us to manipulate that data and use it in ways that maybe FieldView doesn't provide, but they provide us a vehicle to get it there that we can then engage in other analytical tools that are great too.
Talk about Climate Field View specifically and how it relates to the distillery and what it allows you to do that is important to you.
Climate Field View does a few things for us. So one is it really helps us with our traceability. And that's probably different than a lot of farms are dealing with today. But I'll give you an example. In our case in the spirits industry, we've recently signed a large new purchase contract with the University of Illinois. University of Illinois, which all three owners of the distillery are alums of, approached us and were interested in carrying our Whiskey Acres products as the house brand for their catering system in the State Farm Center, Memorial Stadium, et cetera. But one of the pieces that they were lacking from their current spirits provider was a traceability and sustainability message. They were very interested in understanding where things were coming from and could we demonstrate that. One of the tools we were able to show them was Climate Field View. And look at these maps, look at our record keeping. We can actually take the spirit that is in this bottle and trace it all the way back and show you the agronomic practices that were done on the individual spot where these grains were produced. They loved that. And that was a really big part of our sustainability message to them that they in turn found very, very important.
Do you envision that going forward in the future, that sustainability linkage direct from the product to the acreage will be even perhaps more important?
I think it'll be more and more important increasingly. Consumers want to know this information. We need as producers to be able to provide what the consumer wants.
They want transparency.
They do, absolutely do, and we're a big part of that. I mean, we feel very strongly in that transparency message. So anything we can do to help that is key. We also find that Climate Field View allows us the analysis tools to actually look at hybrid A and B, make decisions about what works best. We're finding that there are certain varieties of corn, for example, that grow better on certain soil types, and we actually can segregate the harvest of those acreages on those soil types using this kind of technology program and use Climate Field View to help us get that product ultimately to the consumer, and that's been a big piece of our success.
The corn grown on Walter Farms may end up as Whiskey Acres craft spirits, or it may take a much longer journey. Regardless of the destination, one thing is clear: using Climate Field View and other digital technology has helped Jamie Walter's businesses succeed. Speaking of destination, we're on to our next one. To find out where we're headed, join us next time on Freeways to Farms.